Greetings all, this is Justin.
And this is Nick.
And welcome back to the Hangar Bay.
Yes, it is high time we talked about the namesake of the game, X-Wing, the X-Wing. I asked you guys on the Patreon what you wanted to see, and X-Wings won the vote. And X-Wings, I think, in the initial stages of the X-Wing 2nd Edition meta are a very important thing to talk about.
Yeah.
Because we were talking about before, like, how do we define the X-Wing?
What I said, it was the jack of all trades.
I'd agree with that, yeah. I feel like they can be ace-ish. They can be blockers. In fact, they can be really good blockers. They can also brawl really well. They have inbuilt Talon rolls now. Yeah. It feels like they do a lot of things to a good standard, but nothing to an amazing standard. They're not going to out-ace a TIE Interceptor. They're not going to out-brawl like a Fire Spray. They're not going to out-block Quad Jumpers. But that's okay. Yeah. It doesn't matter because you can adapt a lot of different game situations. I look at the 3 different factions, try to identify what the faction identity of each of those are. Scum are the most versatile, Imperials are the most efficient, and Rebels are the most middle of the road. And X-Wings are basically the most middle of the road platform on that faction. The dial is just average, good, not bad, but good. The action economy is good. The action efficiency, it has access to a lot of things, but it needs to flip its configuration card. So it's not like a super versatile scum ship that can just do all kinds of things. It can arc dodge, but it needs to use up resources. It's not ultra efficient, doesn't have a great action economy like a Imperial Ace, that kind of stuff. And that's all fine, really. And it's also had a nice push in terms of points in 2nd edition. And the fact of the matter is we don't need to have Renegade refit or any of that old junk they had to put on in 1st edition.
You're not losing points to then add more points. It's just, it is what it is. Add points.
That's it. In fact, you pretty much have the same point reduction, but everything keeps its torpedo, which is really, really good.
What's also interesting with the X-Wing is some of them do have the illicit slots as well.
Yes, everything that came in Saul's Renegades pack with the U-Wing. The U-Wings also have the illicit slots as well. And illicit, again, is a great utility upgrade. It's almost like a riskier version of a modification. I think is the way
that's a nice way to look at it.
That's the way I think of it for sure. And it goes on particular X-Wings. And it's really hard to identify the difference between Saul's Renegades and the core Rebellion X-Wings. I think of them as being a bit more aggressive overall. And with illicits, they get a bit more utility to that kind of stuff. They get a bit more risk factor built into them. But they're still very much in keeping with what the Rebellion wants to do. Yeah. We're going to talk about Junkyard Rebels very soon on the channel. And a lot of what we're going to talk about in this video actually relates to that. The way they talk to each other and sort of trade off with abilities and that kind of stuff. But this video is going to focus primarily on how the X-Wings functions, what's the best way to support them, and just get the most value out of them possible. So let's start off with a couple of lists that only use X-Wings, like we did last week with the TIE Defenders, and they're both somewhat canon as well. Yeah. We have this first list, which is all about the Trench Run, from Rob2984 with Wedge, Biggs, and Luke.
Yeah, Wedge has outmaneuver the R4 Astromech and the Servo S-Motors.
In fact, from this point on, let's not point out the S-Foils. We know everything has the S-Foils. Yeah. So Biggs has R5 Astromech and Hull Upgrade.
And Luke has Instinctive Aim, Proton Torpedoes, and R2-D2.
So you've gone for ultra cannon, and I like it a lot.
Yeah.
I like it a lot. We were having a chat about this before, about what we'd change. The only things I'd look at I think we can get a bit more value out of this. I don't think R4 Astromech is fantastic on Wedge. If you have a look at the dial, the only thing that R4 Astromech is doing is changing the 2 hard whites to blues.
Yeah.
Which is good.
Yeah.
I like blue hard turns for sure. It's good when you have Talon rolls and you can clear the stress off a hard turn the next turn. But R4 Astromech has way better platforms. Like the E-Wing loves R4 Astromechs. Yeah. Even the Y-Wing with turrets, having blue hard turns with that is even arguably a bit more powerful. So that's something that I look at and go, you could think about taking that off. Biggs Dark Light, you got a hull upgrade. Again, I'm not a huge fan of it, but I don't hate it. Works well with R5 Astromech. You get a bit more hull to repair.
And also with Biggs, you want him to be sticking around that little bit longer. So
Yeah, I can understand it. Luke, you got R2-D2. I don't think there's a whole heap of extra value over taking R2-D2 over just a regular R2 Astromech. Having said that, R2-D2 gives you one more charge to sort of survive later and later into the game. And that's cool. It's something I wouldn't cut. But if we're thinking about all those things, if we cut all those things, we're saving... How many points are we saving? Let's just cut those off. A lot of points. We're saving like 16 points. And then you could think about torpedoes, maybe upgrading the Astromech on Wedge, doing a few different things. But honestly, after having a look at that, I don't think there's anything that really stands out to me as obvious. Like, oh, well, you must be doing this if you've got this pilot.
yeah,
I think everything is just functioning well.
yeah.
And
instinctive aim doesn't really need to be upgraded because you're using the proton torpedoes.
Yeah, I think, Luke, there's always the conversation about instinctive aim versus supernatural reflexes. I think both are fine. In fact, I really like instinctive aim proton torpedoes. It almost makes Luke feel like an ace that can just end games like that by firing torpedoes.
Yeah.
One of the things that aces usually lack is decent firepower, like ordnance, that kind of stuff. Yeah. And if you can beat a ship by just taking it off the board and not worry about taking the shot back, it's a good utility to have up an ace's sleeve. It's good all around. I don't really have any major complaints about this one.
No, it's a good jack of all trades list.
That's it. So let's move on to this one by BoardGameNoob with Garvin Dreys, Luke, and a Red Squadron veteran.
Garvin Dreys has marksmanship, R5-D8 and shield upgrade.
Luke's got supernatural reflexes this time, advanced proton torpedoes, R2-D2 and a shield upgrade.
And the Red Squadron veteran has marksmanship.
Yeah, and on Luke, shield upgrades and R2, it's very expensive.
Yeah.
94 points.
Oh.
Is a lot. A lot. I will say, though, just comparing this to the previous list, there is a lot of value in having asymmetric lists because it really messes with your opponent's MOV. Having said that, if you do have a points cow, like you have with Luke, just be careful. You don't want him dying. I like supernatural reflexes and advanced proton torpedoes, though. That's very exciting to me.
Actually, I'm looking at Luke's cover. I'm like, that's a TIE Defender right there.
That's a TIE Defender. kind of what?
Well, 94 points.
Yeah, it's the same amount. No, TIE Defenders have 7 health now. Yes, it's in that points range. Okay, well, if we're going to have that conversation, how do you think this stacks up against a Defender?
Oh, supernatural reflexes is good, but it's not enough.
I don't know if it does.
Yeah.
Defenders have 3 green dice and natural evades, constantly.
Yeah.
And look, force tokens are great. On defense, evade tokens are just a bit better.
Yeah.
You're not guaranteed force tokens because you might need to use it on supernatural reflexes. Having said that, this is like the most reliable way to get off advanced proton torpedoes, and I do like that. The fact of the matter is you can boost and barrel roll, activating at initiative 5 before you move to make sure you get that range 1 shot, target lock, bam, right in the face. And that's interesting. R2 and shield upgrade, I can see the logic there. Although...
I don't really think it needs the shield upgrade. That's 5 points?
Yeah. I like R2 and shield upgrade. I think it's cool together. But supernatural reflexes wants you to be aggressive. R2 and shield upgrades wants you to play the long game. And I don't know if that is all working together. I mean, you could think about just taking off shield upgrade. In fact, let's just do this now. And downgrading R2. Let's just go R4 Astromech. Just give himself some green hard turns. It's going to help with supernatural reflexes, making sure you can do talon rolls and do all that kind of stuff. Green moves, all that kind of thing. And now he's only 82 points. And I feel like this is leaning more into the aggression. It's not so expensive that we're freaking out about him dying. And from that point of view, I guess that's why you had R2 in the first place. But when we do that, we have another 13 points left over for the rest of the upgrades in the bid.
Yeah, well, not only that, we could also consider changing the squad, the pilots themselves.
Yeah, for sure. I don't mind Garvin Dreys. I don't love him alongside Luke because Garvin doesn't get to shoot and pass off a focus token to Luke. But then again, Luke's got force tokens, so how good are focus tokens for him anyway? We could have a look at this other X-Wing pilot, change it to a few different things. Jack Porkins, Leven Tenza. Jack Pawkins is interesting. Your your initiative match with Garvin Dreyers. That could be interesting to go for like a Jack Chopper build, that kind of thing, which we're going to talk about in a second with another list. Yes, I feel like we've just pushed Luke a bit too much. And even if we take off all of this, he's still 82 points and he's still, it's still an asymmetric list.
Yeah.
It's just not so varied in the way you've done it. Having said that, I do find the idea of Supernatural Reflexes, Advanced Protons, and R2 together like the most crazy, insane, versatile list ever. And if you can just arc dodge over and over again, you're going to be pretty happy with that.
You're going to feel pretty good.
Just a few suggestions there, Board Game Noob. I like the idea about this. I like the idea of asymmetric lists in general. Just make sure that Luke's firing on all cylinders. That's the one takeaway I'd take from this. Let's move along. Let's go on to this list by Legion of One. And we're moving away from all X-Wing lists now. We have a couple of X-Wings and a U-Wing. And this is an all-canon list. We're talking about Saul's Renegades again.
Yes. So we have Edrio Chew Tubes with Contraband Cybernetics, Proton Torpedoes, R4 Astromech.
Also got Benthic 2 Tubes on the U-Wing. We'll talk about him next. With Advanced Sensors, Generso, and Perceptive Co-Pilot.
Then the last one is Colby Sperado with Contraband Cybernetics, Outmaneuver, Proton Torpedoes, and R4 Astromech.
Contraband Cybernetics on both X-Wings. I really like that.
Yeah.
I really like that because you can do really fun tricks with Talon rolls. You can Talon roll, barrel roll into Talon roll and do kind of really stuff like that. Or Talon roll target lock to get off those protons. A lot of fun things you can do there. And you've got R4 Astromechs to clear the stress later on. That's good. That's solid. I like the combination with those two things.
Yeah.
And protons. It's all good. It's just all really expensive. That's the only thing I'm concerned about. These aren't the highest initiative pilots, and 61 points and 70 points respectively on Edrio and Colby. But that's okay. I feel like if you want to go ultra aggressive, you also can arc dodge in some situations based on this kind of thing. I don't know, Edrio's on the initiative 2. Colby Sperado's initiative 4 though. And with his inbuilt ability, I feel like there is a bit of flexibility to do there. Plus Benthic. It's really good support role in this build because Benthic has Coordinate to give Colby Sperado a boost or a barrel roll before he activates, and then he can flip his card and do all kinds of crazy stuff. Also, Benthic has the option of passing off his focus tokens to Edrio 2 Tubes, and that gives Edrio an extra action when he activates, which again can be boosts and barrel rolls. It's all about giving repositioning abilities early on. Also,
this way with Generso, you actually get the evade tokens, which X-Wings can't get.
Yes, Generso just does one, doesn't she?
Yeah.
If a friendly ship, it gains a focus token. No, there is no once per round clause on that. So you could give an evade token to Benthic and an evade token to an X-Wing, if you really want to.
Yeah.
Remember, if you do that with Edrio, he doesn't get his action because he wants to be focused. That is specifically focus tokens. I didn't realise they changed it. This is what Jan Orz's old ability was. Jin was the net focus tokens for everything in the fine. Simple. They've gone for the simple one out of two of them. And advanced sensors on this list, it means you can do the actions before or after. Make sure you're in the right spot to pass off the tokens. We were talking before about advanced sensors. We're not entirely convinced, but I think in this list it does make a lot of sense.
Yeah, definitely with this one.
And in terms of what else you can do, I don't want to put any more points on X-Wings, even if I could. Inertial dampeners on the U-Wing, I don't think that's great. It's already got a full stop anyway.
Yeah.
So I look at advanced sensors and go, yep, you know what? This is going to work. I think 8 points is a lot, but you can just get enough value out of it in this one. And the key to this is adaptation. It almost feels like a scum list in that regard, and it all looks really good. I like the idea here. Now let's move on to a similar list, which also has 2 X-Wings and a U-Wing. Same pilot on the U-Wing with Benthic 2 Tubes, but instead on the X-Wings we have Luke and Wedge.
Yes. Now Luke Skywalker has proton torpedoes.
Same as Wedge.
Yeah.
And Benthic actually has the same build again as that last list. Advanced Sensors, Generso, and Perceptive Co-Pilot. Also, this was submitted by Thomas Orest. And this is interesting because we had this conversation, and this is the advantage of making these videos. We compare things one-on-one that was submitted by everyone. And we're talking about the value of advanced sensors on this build versus the last one, and we came to the conclusion that we don't want it on this build.
Yeah, just with these 2 named X-Wing pilots, I feel like they need the talents and the force upgrade slots.
You need to push them a little bit along with that. a Luke build that only costs 71 points and a Wedge build, respectively, that costs 61 points, they're not pushed for far enough, and they will probably underperform at that point. Advanced Senses is good. You can coordinate before or after you move. That's going to help these guys a little bit, but it's not going to help them as much as having a Force upgrade and a Talent upgrade.
Yeah.
Those things are just way better than Advanced Senses on Benthic 2 tubes. And the clear options is Outmaneuver on Wedge and Instinctive Aim on Luke. I think that's just the clear option there. We could also think about other talents on Wedge. We could think about Lone Wolf, for example. I am cautious with Outmaneuver on Wedge. A lot of people like this because, hey, getting rid of 2 green dice. The problem is if they're only rolling 1 green dice, your talent's doing nothing. However, against aces, ooh, that's nice. That's really nice to get rid of 2 of their green dice. That just completely blanks out Sunterfell if you catch him unawares. And you've got the tools to do that. You've got Talon rolls, boost and barrel roll. This can happen. And this is what I mean. X-Wings are not the best aces, but they can hunt aces.
Yeah.
He's got Initiative 6. He can do this kind of stuff, and I really like that. Anything with Initiative 5, Inquisitors, other Luke Skywalkers, Wedge will just eat them alive, which is really, really cool. And yeah, I think this is just the clear option. We get a bit more value out of our aces. In general, we want to make sure our aces are a bit more stacked with this kind of build. This is kind of leaning into more of a Palp Aces style build, where we have the support ship feeding tokens or dice results or modifications or anything, and 2 aces doing all the work.
Yeah, and we've literally lost 1 card to put on 2.
Yes.
And it feels so much better.
That's it. And again, I just want to reiterate, it's so obvious to us when we look at all these different lists. And I think what I want to highlight here is you compare this list to the other list, you see how Advanced Senses can work really well. Yeah. You see where it can be very valuable. And that's what you got to ask yourself when you're putting on upgrades. Is this getting all the value out of this upgrade? Is this the list for this upgrade? And in this case, I just don't think Advanced Senses works quite well here. But a cool concept nonetheless.
Definitely.
Like a sort of quasi-Palp Aces on the Rebel faction with platforms that can brawl if they need to, get a bit more flexibility. Could be interesting.
So this is a 4-ship X-Wing build. We've got 2 X-Wings, a Sheathipede shuttle, and a B-Wing.
Yeah, very interesting. It feels like the B-Wing's almost playing the role of a third X-Wing in a way. Yeah. And this one's submitted by Dead Man Walk on the Patreon, so thank you for that, mate. Yes, Jack Porkins has Elusive and Chopper.
Where Jantilles is Bear.
Yep, apart from the S-foils. Yeah. AP5 has Trick Shot and Informant.
And the B-Wing with 10 num has Elusive.
Yes, indeed. Now, Dead Man Walk, you have put in an 8-point bid. We were talking about this before. In fact, we've been talking a lot on the Discord about what kind of bids we should do. A lot of you guys are saying, oh, it should be this much, or we don't know. My answer is always this. We don't have a meta. We don't really know. Yeah. Having said that, an 8-point bid is pretty comfortably going to give you the option of taking or giving first player choice in most games. We were discussing the validity of putting Lone Wolf on Wedge and then going down to a 4-point bid, and I think the upside on that is just high enough. Against, Imperial list, they're probably going to have a higher bid, and maybe that'll suck. I really like rerolls and offense and defense with Wedge. It makes it feel really good. Even in a 4-ship build, don't disregard Lone Wolf. You'll get it working, especially on your Initiative 6 ace who has boosts and barrels and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, he will either fly off or someone will get shot down and
that's it.
It'll start working.
But just to reiterate, that does depend on your local meta and the meta in a whole. You might find that a 4-point bid... You might find that every Imperial list with Initiative 6 aces runs a 6-point bid every single time. In which case, no, you don't run the 4-point bid, you run the 8-point bid, and then Wedge gets to fly after, like Sunterfell and all that. But that's a meta call for sure. But let's talk about the fun stuff here. Jack Porkins with Elusive and Chopper.
Yeah.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. It's fun.
The Chopper Elusive combo, it's just nice.
It's very nice. Elusive has just the 1 charge for Chopper to use. That's fine. You can also dump your shields into Elusive if you really, really want to. I don't think that's a smart thing to do because you're spending 2 points of health for a green dice reroll. That actually mathematically doesn't make... Don't ever do that. Don't ever do that.
Don't.
But yeah, I like the idea of Chopper here because he wants to do red actions constantly. So Elusive is going to be turning on over and over again. And Chopper can also use that stuff to recover shields, which is very, very interesting. It means he can do red stuff and blue stuff and red and recover shields and all that kind of stuff. So if he's being hurt by his own ability, it's fun.
Yeah.
I don't think it's very, very powerful. I think it's fun. And that's okay.
Why are you versed?
Look, I think Chopper's very cute. Honestly, I know that sounds a bit dismissive. I like R4 Astromech. I like just your basic good utility astromechs on the Rebel faction that are going to be relevant every single game. Again, we've talked about this. My psychographics really more of a spike. I want tournament consistency. But that's obviously not what you've gone for here. You've gone for, hey, this is a really cool interaction. Let's see how many times I can do it in one game kind of thing. And that's cool too. There's no problem with doing that as well. And if you get really good at it, those things can become very powerful. Remember, at one stage, every powerful meta list was something dumb someone thought of at one stage. Wedge with nothing. Again, I put Lone Wolf on. We could put Outmaneuver on, but then that really pushes into the bid. I think Lone Wolf was the right call here. Having said that, Wedge without anything with a really strong bid might just be the thing that blanks out your opponent's ace, and that's cool. Let's just jump down to 10 num before we talk about anything else.
Yeah, Elusive on 10 num, very good.
Very, very solid.
Very good, because 10 num has a lot of red.
A lot of red 1-speed Talon rolls. Yeah, absolutely. If you want to be a knife-fighting jouster with your B-Wing, this is really, really powerful. If Elusive saves him from dying just one more round, it's worth the investment.
Oh, yeah.
I've said this before and I'll say it again. A fundamental thing you want to do in X-Wing is make sure you shoot your opponent more time than they shoot you. An Elusive on this is just really solid. In fact, I like it on Jack Porkins and 10 num because then they can both be knife fighters. And that's really, really fun. Where Wedge is more your ace, just doing whatever. He's the more versatile option. But let's talk about AP5.
Trick shot.
Yeah, trick shot. We've been playing around with trick shot. I like it a lot for 1 point.
Yeah.
It feels great for 1 point.
If you get it off just once, you're like, that's worth 1 point.
Absolutely. In an environment where dice mods are so sparse and costly and predator and marksmanship and all these upgrades have just been tapered down, to be fair. Getting the odd extra dice every now and then is fantastic. It's like really, really solid. I played a game just recently where it worked twice in one game, and I thought, whoa, that's really good. That's well overperforming and not unrealistic. Especially with a ship with arc out the front, arc out the back. Big thumbs up to that. And Informant. Now, I want to talk about this because I love Informant on this build. I love things that can do lots of different interactions and adapt to situations.
Gives you so much information.
That's right. I mean, look, Informant on AP5 alone is great because then you can block and do all that kind of stuff. It means he can set up his aces that are flying around him to... if he's got like a bomber or something around him, he can set up bombs by making them do their actions and fly in the right spot and get the right spot for next turn. But alongside 2 X-Wings and a B-Wing, I love this because he activates at Initiative 1... has a look at someone's dial during the system phase, and he has so much agency to block them, it's not funny. Because all of his friends can barrel roll, the X-Wings can boost if the S-foils are closed. He himself, of course, can block because he's an Initiative 1 guy. He unfortunately can't move with that information, but the fact of the matter is he has 3 ships flying next to him that he can barrel roll into position just perfectly to set up these blocks. And then those ships activate and fly away, potentially doing Talon rolls and shooting the ship they just blocked.
It's nasty.
Yeah,
I love it.
We might be talking about Magical Christmas Land here. I don't care. That's something that gets me really excited.
Yeah.
And Dead Man Walk, if you ever pull that off, let me know. That's really, really fun. And from that point, forward, I'm just talking about Lone Wolf on Wedge again. Maybe that's the reason you haven't gone for Lone Wolf on Wedge. Maybe you want to fly these guys in formation and try and set up blocks. That makes sense. I can fully understand that. But I like having one B-Wing next to the X-Wings because the X-Wings are sort of... They're brawlers. They can do Talon rolls and keep in the combat. But B-Wing is a dedicated knife fighter that wants to get in really, really close.
Yeah.
Which is just fantastic. Especially 10 Num. He can spend that stress token. He can recharge elusive, spend the stress token, and then use his stress token for offensive focus conversion. This list is just firing on all cylinders. I don't know if it's super powerful, but I love the concept behind it. Yeah. It seems balanced. It seems fun. It seems interactive.
I want to see some B-Wings flying.
Yeah, I want to see some B-Wings. We haven't tested those yet, have we? We're going to go into that next. Indeed, so thank you for submitting that one. Let's go on to the final list. This one's by McZoo012345.
And this is 2 X's and 2 A's.
Yes, Wedge and Thane. Wedge has marksmanship and R2 astromech.
Thane has crackshot and R4 astromech.
Jake Farrell has Daredevil and proton rockets.
And Arvel has intimidation.
And again, we were just talking before about the proton rocket here. Not sure what to do with this. We were thinking about putting an Arvel Crinid. I think our logic there is Arvel Crinid is the one that wants to get in close.
Yeah.
And if he doesn't bump, he can then fire a proton rocket. Look, if you want to get so close that you're bumping, you're probably going to get things inside your bullseye arc. Because the closer you are, the easier it is to do that. And from that point of view, I think that makes a lot of sense. However... and answer in the comments, McZoo, if you are flying this, how you're flying it, because I'm trying to get inside your head here. Maybe Jake and Arvel want to fly together, and that's why Jake has the thing that works at range 1, and Arvel has the thing that works at range 0. So like they're flying around like that and just charging into things.
That makes sense.
But if you give proton rockets to Arvel, then Jake can just fly off. He can even fly around with the X-Wings if he wants to and give them focus things. So there's options here.
Daredevil is also really interesting on Jake. Having that ability, it only works if you choose to boost at the start. You can't boost...
Only white boosts, yeah.
So you can't do it,
So it's not action economy, it's action flexibility, which is still a good thing.
Yeah.
Actually, there was a lot of comments on last week's videos about putting advanced sentences on TIE defenders because they take an action before. They can't take the extra evade action after. The point of advanced senses is to give them flexibility, not the extra on top of the evade and all that kind of stuff.
So if you had to do a 2 maneuver, you could...
Exactly right. Exactly right.
The evade if you wanted to.
Yeah. And the same thing here. If you want to do a hard turn off potentially a hard turn, you can turn him around without having to stress him. That's fun. You can do all kinds of crazy maneuvers with sort of banks into hard turns and all that kind of thing. It's flexibility. It makes sure that he gets in the right spot every single time, which is good fun. Plus, you still get the bonus of using his ability to give a friendly a focus. And maybe somehow that Daredevil ability got him into range 1 of a friendly. Maybe somehow the bank wouldn't, but the hard would. It's very unlikely, but it's possible. Yeah.
It sometimes happens,
For sure. So yeah, I like Daredevil on Jake. It's a very interesting idea. I don't know if it's like better than Lone Wolf or something like that, but cool nonetheless. Moving over to the X-Wings. Thane Kyrell. I'm surprised we didn't have more submissions for him, actually. Really cool looking pilot.
He's got a great ability. That's the thing with the X-Wings. A lot of them have great abilities, but they don't get used a lot.
No, I think that's fine. They're not like swarm happy like the TIE Fighter abilities. Having said that, this is solid. I like Crackshot on this. It's a great, simple way to push across 1 more point of damage. If you do that, you're more likely to get damage cards on your opponent, and then you're more likely to be able to use his results and that kind of stuff. R4 Astromech means you can fly a bit more aggressively. Again, I know it's not the highest value on an X-Wing. I think on an aggressive build, it's okay, though. I think we can get away with it on aggressive builds. And Wedge, marksmanship, R2 Astromech, again, super aggressive. We haven't gone for outmaneuver this time. I think that's okay, though. You don't really have the points for it. And marksmanship, I will say, I kind of feel like all of these ships want to get in really close because you've got bullseye abilities on Thane and Wedge, which can be very messy. I would like the flexibility on these X-Wings to be able to shoot from further away. Unfortunately, there's no decent upgrades that are cheaper that can do that. You could have trick shot on both.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe trick shot actually. Maybe I've convinced myself all of a sudden to put on trick shot. Because of them, you're putting more damaged cards across the table. The problem with things in the bullseye firing arc, the further away you are, the harder it is to pull it off.
Yeah.
Unless they're really aggressively jousting, which the X-Wings can do. Mixu, if you're watching, think about trick shot. Give it a go and compare the two. I really don't want to call which one I think is better because I think there is an argument for both. Crack shot is in general really powerful if you get it working. So if you fly in such a way that just gets it working every single game, yeah, cool.
Yeah,
I dig it.
Yeah.
I can dig it. And I can dig X-Wings in general.
So can I.
Very fun platforms. I wish they were on the Scum faction. But alas, they are only going to be on this faction. Hopefully we'll get another X-Wing on the Resistance. Did you see the latest teaser for Resistance?
The T-80.
The T-80 or the T-85?
T-85,
yeah. We're like 99% sure it's T-85s.
Yeah.
They don't have like the interlocking S-foils like the 70s. They look a bit more streamlined and stuff.
Yeah.
Look really cool. There'll be a picture on the screen here so you guys can see what I'm talking about. That'll be interesting.
But also, did you see that red TIE fighter?
The Inceptor? Yeah. I know, Justin.
Can't wait.
He's a bit happy about that.
Yeah.
Anyway, guys, thank you so much. Thank you to all of my patrons. You guys do so much to support the channel. If you want to get involved with the Patreon, the link is in the description down below. If you donate, I think it's $5 or more, you can be part of the Discord and decide what archetypes we talk about here on the channel. Get a better chance of having your list reviewed. In the meantime, like and subscribe. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and Reddit. Consider supporting the Patreon, and we'll catch you later.
Bye.